Hey, peace and blessings, everybody. It's your brother Sorry, back with yet another one. This topic, this video, we're gonna talk about viewing the world as isolated events versus viewing the world um, from a perspective of patterns. Now, anybody who's been following any of this information, any of the this material as far as the experiential and true master are concerned, or what have you, as far as the experiential is concerned, the four conditions for the experiential to work. You live inside of your mind. Everything that you give your attention to is a symbol. Everything that repeats is a pattern, and they are governed by intangible um, principles. So when we say everything that repeats is a pattern, or nature is self-similar across we make those type of statements and everything like that to kind of enforce the thought process and everything like that. But we're just gonna kind of go into the difference and the value of kind of doing of observing the idea of patterns versus isolated events. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Okay, so from the common point of view of the average person, the layman, how we talk about the four phases of awareness, the layman, the philosopher, the scientist, and the artist. The scientist is the beginning of a method. You see what I'm saying? Anything anything not involved, anything underneath that, the layman and the philosopher, their inquisitiveness gives birth to the methods of the scientists, but they have no method to measure it by. So it's just a assumption of what it may be. If you see a guy doing something or whatever case may be, and you don't know how he doing, I think he did this, so I don't believe in that, but you ain't never researched it, type deal. Okay, so from the point of view of the average person, layman, the events in our lives, the events in our lives that transpire are a series of isolated events. So from the normal person's perspective, all the events in their life are a situation of isolated events happening purely by chance, right? Everything happened purely by chance, right? With no relationship to each other. Okay, so this is just a common thought process or whatever case may be. Um, people viewing things as isolated events. Your more spiritual or religious people might be like, okay, well, I know that, God got his hand on me, and what I'm saying, this, that, and the third, or whatever. They may have some semblance that there's something else that exists or whatever, but they feel as if most of their stuff is isolated events. The events that we attribute to our own planning are also viewed as isolated events, right? Strung together by our own intellectual design. So when I start talking about patterns or whatever case may be, this is what I'm gonna get hit with. I'm gonna get hit um with, man, this ain't patterns. You tripping or whatever. And this is the mind frame of the person that tells me they don't believe in what I'm talking about. So from the perspective of isolated events, we often view synchronicities um, as coincidences, right? We often view synchronicities as coincidences, as if the universe was in natural in some in a in naturally utter chaos, and a brief glimpse of order or reflectiveness is almost paradoxical. Now there are parts and aspects of the universe and cycles of the universe where chaos is predominant in everything like that. But the state in which we live in an ordered system and everything like that, where reflexiveness is a quality of reality. You see what I'm saying? So everyone can obviously see macro patterns, what I'm calling macro patterns, such as the sun and moon. You see what I'm saying? The sun coming up every day, the sun going down every day, the moon coming up, the moon going down. Oh damn, it's a full moon. XYZ 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's see. On a still smaller level, we have the clock in times of day. All right. The clock the clock being a fractal extension of the calendar. The clock is an extension of the calendar. It's just in fractal form or whatever case may be. If you didn't have if you didn't have the calendar, you couldn't have the clock. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. For most people, this is the extent of acknowledged observable temporal patterns. So when I say patterns, the average person, this is about is close as they get to observing patterns. You see what I'm saying? The sun coming up and down every day. Um, let's see here. Their perception is limited to what I'm referring to as gross macro patterns. Something that's dead obvious that you can't ignore or whatever case may be. Something like holidays, the sun and the moon's motions, daily routines. If they get a cup of coffee every morning at Starbucks or something like that, they might recognize that to be a pattern or something like that. You know what I'm saying? The person that work at Starbucks might say, hey man, you get the um venti mocha latte every morning. You dig? So they might remember when you walk up, they see, okay, it's the venti mocha latte man. You see what I'm saying? Um, Locations, vehicles. You buy a new car, you might notice other people got the same car as you, or whatever case maybe. They might notice certain patterns on that level, gross macro patterns, what I'm describing. Public office, okay, we got a new president, okay, we got a new governor, we got a new mayor, that type of thing. They might recognize those things as patterns or whatever. But that is about the extent of it. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so in this material, we deal with that. We do deal with all that, and granted, all those things are um, legitimate patterns. You see what I'm saying? Um, let's see here. In the stuff we talk about, it is applicable to those gross macro patterns, but these observable things are so gross that they hardly disturb our notion of isolated events. These things that I just mentioned hardly disturb our notion of isolated events. Yeah, brother, sir, those are patterns, but I don't know what you're talking about when you start talking about everything as a pattern. I don't know about all that. Okay, so one of the definitions that the experiential gives for patterns is space separated into intervals of difference, right? So space separated into intervals of difference is another definition that we get for patterns. Now we also get the definition of patterns with anything that repeats. That's the super ultra condensed down version. But space separated into intervals of difference. That's fresh from that's a la brother not you right there. Okay, so a very recognizable form of that is the wheel of the zodiac. Ah, man, so much astrology. I don't believe in that. Okay, well, just humor me right now. Okay, so because you probably never met an astrologer, you probably never experienced it. If I was in front of you, we would demonstrate that. Any of my peers was in front of you. God bless the astrologers. And I hear shout out to my astrologers, black, white, pink, purple, all the whole community. Cause y'all feel me what I'm saying. Y'all observe fractals. Y'all observe timing, and things like that. So y'all feel me. God bless the astrologers. But we're going to deal with the wheel of the zodiac, right? So dividing a 360-degree circle into 12 parts of 30 degrees each. So that's math. That ain't no crystal ball. That ain't no palm reading or nothing like that. We're talking about 360 degrees divided by 12. That equals 30 degrees each. Okay, that's math. So many people will tell me how pseudo astrology is, but they are my favorite people to do astrology readings for. God bless the non-believers. God bless the non-believers, because non-believers don't exist in the non-believers are like matches to ice when it comes to a scientist. Can you dig it? So what I mean by that is there is nothing to believe in. You see what I'm saying? When I call them non-believers, I'm just being facetious in that, because there's actually nothing to believe in. You don't know what you don't know. You see what I'm saying? And patterns aren't beliefs. So when I even say non-believers and all that, I'm just being facetious or whatever. A person don't know what they don't know, whatever case may be. But it's just a funny thing, because we're non-believers too, and we don't really believe in anything like that. We have methods of measuring certain phenomena with it. So it's less of a belief and more of an understanding. You see what I'm saying? So patterns or cycles interpenetrate and overlap other cycles. Patterns and cycles interpenetrate and overlap other cycles. In the example of the zodiac wheel, we have 12 signs representing 12 distinct themes. 12 distinct themes. Okay, these themes are associated with particular sets of circumstances, right? These themes are associated with particular sets of circumstances, particular symbols, particular physical items, all kind of things of that nature, what have you. All right, emotions, actions, all kind of things of that nature, right? Okay, so remember I said in many instances we can interchange the words energy with circumstances. So when I say energy, oh man, the energy is like this, the energy is like that, or whatever the case may be. That's just another way of saying circumstances. So y'all don't get all weirded out on me or whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's the zodiac wheel, and nature itself similar across scale. So where else does this show up? So we just talked about the zodiac wheel. It's divided in this. It's a circle divided into 12 parts, and each of those 12 parts has various different archetypal energy or energy as far as themes is concerned or whatever. So it's 12 different themes. Damn, so nature's self similar across scale, brother. So how that work? You know what I'm saying? What's the punchline on that? Okay, where else can we find that in nature? Now we can find it on the clock, of course, but the clock we can find it on the calendar. Yeah, but that's not quite what I'm looking for. I need something in nature that we can kind of relate this to. What is phase in an electric circuit? Notice how a lot of this energy stuff, quote, we're gonna put it in big quotation marks, the energy stuff that we're talking about, how it corresponds with the electricity and stuff like that. If you read the paper, quiet weapons for silent wars, they talk about um, banking and various things from the perspective of electrical circuits and energy and things of that nature because it corresponds. Okay, so let's see here. What is phase in an electrical circuit? All right. So this is that others to self type talk. Okay. So the distribution of electrical load and the relationship between voltage and current waveforms in an AC circuit. Specifically, it indicates the number of independent AC voltage waveforms present and how they relate to each other. So basically, what I'm saying is that it shifts phases or what have you. Um, uh, I would say something relatively similar to that would be, let's say, like a transmission or something like that. When you go from gear to gear or whatever case may be, something relatively similar to that. You would go from gear to gear, first gear to second gear to third gear or whatever case may be or whatever. But it's various phases or whatever case may be. That's what you're actually measuring when you're looking at the zodiac wheel and everything like that. That's the energy going through various different phases and everything like that. So that's and others to self mindset correlating electricity and how it functions with our perception of spiritual energy, right? So the zodiac wheel is a circular model of various phases of energy that planets, you see what I'm saying, representing particular energies traverse. So the way this works is Mercury moves faster than Venus. Venus moves faster than Mars. Mars moves faster than Saturn, and so on and so on. Thus, several, let me see here, Venus cycles, which are Venus takes 225 days to move around to go around the sun and everything like that. Several Venus cycles may overlap and be contained within a single Saturn cycle. Saturn takes 28.5 years to circulate around the sun. That's about that can be rounded off to 30 years or 360 months. You see what I'm saying? So you have that ties into the mythos of Saturn eating his kids and all this stuff like that, or whatever the case may be, because all the orbits of all the other planets can be consolidated or put into um, a Saturn cycle. You know, barring the planets that have larger orbits than Saturn, but that was the farthest of the visible planets in the ancient world. So you know, getting into all that. But anyway, speaking of the zodiac, these phases can be fractalized even further. So when you get into various other systems, let's say like the 36 decans of the Egyptians, that's the 12 signs of the zodiac divided into three parts. So whatever case may be, you'll get 36. You'll get the 28 nakshatras and that of the Vedic system and everything like that. That can be they further divide theirs down into various padas. If I'm not mistaken, padas are like four. They're like four in each nakshatra or something like that. But you get the general idea. So what we're dealing with is a circuit of energy going through various phases. In certain instances, the phases can be divided into various different smaller parts, or whatever case may be. So once we understand the nature of the various smaller parts within those different phases, or whatever case may be, we understand what we can expect from circumstances. You see what I'm saying? In these scenarios. Okay, so as we talk about patterns, you see how this is more intricate and a little bit more nuanced than a person just believing in isolated events. So you understand why, a person who actually observes fractals, such as my astrologers, God bless the astrologers, um, but people who observe fractals a little bit more, or whatever case may be, when you say you don't believe in certain things, why they look at you like you're crazy, or whatever case may be, it's not that you are crazy, it's just that you're not privy to certain information. So you calling a person that may be, you see what I'm saying, that maybe have studied things on par with a scientist, you basically calling them an idiot. And it's very arrogant to say that. Let me see here. This is not meant to instruct you in astrology, but to use that as an example to show what we are actually talking about when we say fractals and patterns. They can be likened to phase shifts. You see what I'm saying? In the energy, spanning from the micro to the macro scale. All right. Okay. With TM and the experiential, you are observing patterns in real time, or triangulating past events to identify and discern the nature of a pattern. See the exercise in mapping the energy. I'll probably put that in the description. The punchline here would be that our lives are not random. You see what I'm saying? Our lives are not random occurrences, or whatever. The person that you met at the store, or whatever, that's not a random thing, whatever case may be. The neighborhood you live in, all that stuff like that, it's not random occurrences. They all have some sort of correlation, and they're all related to other things, chains of other things in your life, or whatever case may be. Okay, they are ordered and happen based on and in accordance with some level of cosmic balance or equilibrium. All right. I don't think this disqualifies us from exercising free will totally. I just think free will is a little more complex than we may believe. Cerebral free will, you see what I'm saying? Me walking over there grabbing you know what I'm saying, grabbing a glass of water or something like that because I feel like I want to. You see what I'm saying? Um, is assumed. You see what I'm saying? When we speak of this, but would a trauma victim's free will be the same as a privileged person? Would they have the same free will? Would they desire to do the same things based on certain circumstances and how they're wired or whatever? Probably not. Okay, so I would say what we want is one thing, and why we want it may be another thing. What you want and what you feel like you want. I want to do this and that, but why do you want that? You see what I'm saying? So if you want something, you may be in control on the level of getting that thing that you feel like you want or whatever, but you may not be in control as far as why you may want that thing, if that makes any sense. So this is why people go to therapy and all that stuff like that, because there are deeper reasons behind that or whatever. So that's why I say free will is a little bit more loaded than just me going over there grabbing a glass of water. It has more to it than that. I know from the astrology perspective, or whatever case may be, it may be certain placements in a person's natal chart or whatever, where they may be predisposed to certain behavior or whatever case may be. I know certain traumatic behavior or certain difficult situations in life or whatever may manifest as difficult placements or whatever case may be. And honestly, it's so funny because, in a lot of situations or whatever, you may be able to rationalize certain things. You see what I'm saying? To be politically correct, but the chart is going to tell you if that's a positive or a negative attribute, period. If it's a challenging situation or if it's a beneficial situation, the chart is going to be black and white about it. So that's just one of those things. Let me see here. Similar to how we spoke in previous videos, symbols have an ecosystem of association. When they are distilled down, they become words with a single definition. You see what I'm saying? Similarly, like how we talked about, let's say Medu Neter or something like that, the Egyptian hieroglyphs or whatever the case may be, each character is derived from something in their ecosystem which has some form of um, associations in the environment that it lives in or whatever, in some sort of built-in context. When we take it out of that and make it just a character, let's say like phonetic script or something like that, it's just a character and it has a set definition that we give it, as opposed to its ecosystem. When we have a symbol or whatever, when we change the context of the symbol morphs to fit it, versus if we just say that's a flashlight and there's only one, we just condensed it down to one thing. So let's see here. Let's see. So in an absolute sense, everything you give your attention to is a symbol. Anything that repeats is a pattern. It is safe to say if you are observing it now, it has existed in fractal form unrecognized prior to you observing it. That's just something to kind of, that's a feather to put in your hat, to put in the back of your mind or whatever. It's not something that you want to obsess about, because none of this stuff, I must give the disclaimer, none of the stuff that I'm talking about, I know we're talking about patterns and I know we're talking about all this stuff. How can I really say it? Let me see here. Okay, from an experiential perspective, God never shuts up. God don't never shut the hell up. God is always talking to you. God will never shut the hell up. And we are just illiterate to God's speech. When I say God, I'm talking about nature, the source, however you want to say it, the information that flows through us. We're basically walking antennas. So the information that flows to us and through us or whatever the case may be, it never ceases or whatever. God don't never shut up. There's just a limitation on our ability to be able to perceive and interpret it. You see what I'm saying? So you're talking about something that has infinite patience for your lack of understanding, and it will never stop talking to you. And it's gonna keep talking until you figure it out. And if you never figure it out, that's okay, because it told you. God don't never shut up. So that's something you learn as you start getting into the idea of patterns. So that's why we say it's a hat that you just put on from time to time to be able to solve problems. Um, if you obsess over this stuff and kind of stay in it too long or whatever case may be, without the correct environment to support it, health in a healthy way or whatever case may be, it may be detrimental. I don't want you to start obsessing over the phone numbers of your contacts in your phone or whatever case may be, nothing crazy or whatever case may be. That's obsessive. Let's see. In a practical sense, that previous absolute, as far as uh, everything being a pattern, or things that you may observe being patterns unrecognized, that previous absolute is not something to obsess over, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. The takeaway is everything has a message, right? Everything has a message and a meaning and a relationship to something else, enabling it to be read, like how we've been talking about on this whole discourse. Everything is readable, like how we talk about when we talk about symbols, patterns, and principles and everything like that. Um, Based on, let's say, like what astrology may be doing. Um, going from the chart and then discerning events in real life or whatever case may be that happen in real time, as far as, like, let's say, like predictive astrology or picking elections or something of that nature. The experiential and true master kind of deal with the situation in real time or whatever, and you're still dealing with similar themes as you would with astrology. And we'll probably do a video about that, like because that's that's an interesting thing. It kind of correlates with Plato's theory of forms. However, we're not dealing with forms. We deal with it's dealt with themes, similar to how astrology deals with themes. I think that themes work better than the idea of forms, and as we can see with the example of astrology. So that's pretty much all I had today, man. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me, man. Witnessing the strength of street knowledge today. you know, everybody be safe. Have a great 4th of July. So I know y'all hear the fireworks in my background. You see what I'm saying? Hope y'all enjoyed that little piece that we just did. We got a lot more to do. Gonna dive back into the ancient world. We're gonna get into some more videos. Just a little bit more on the others, the self side of the game. So, kind of correlating scientific stuff with what we've been talking about in self to self, or whatever case may be. So, like what you've been hearing, like and subscribe, man. Peace and blessings. Peace.